Alrighty, so Koheles. Let's review what we did last time, and we ended off on a question. So we were going through the Koheles experiment, and we determined, and we were dividing it into its phases, and then trying to explain with each phase what Yisron was he looking for, uh, and why did he go to that one now, and then what conclusion did he reach. So we had here Psukim 12 through 15, we said, is a general introduction to the experiment. Remember, this is the first part of the book where he is speaking in first person after the introduction, where he says his thesis statement. And he's basically describing all of the, what do you call it? The overview of what he did is he tested out these different, he went to apply his chachma to the world, and he found out that everything is hevel and ru'us ruach. Hevel meaning futile, ru'us ruach meaning frustrating. And it's the unique type of frustration where he didn't get the thing that he thought he was going to get, and that causes a sharp pain. And then the feeling that the whole thing was futile, that's hevel. And then we said Mu'uvas lo yuchal liskon is more of a lament about the human being, that God created a human being in a way where he's programmed to seek this unattainable thing, and that's chesron lo yuchal himanos, is that what's not there can't be counted, meaning the thing he was looking for, it doesn't exist, so he can't get it. And we supported that with the end of pasuk Yud Gimel by saying, "Hu inyan rat nasan elokim livnei adam la'anos bo." This is an evil or bad or harmful or painful thing that God gave to man to torture him with, right? Not that God is vindictive, but that God created man with this psychological need to find this yisron that's going to bring him ultimate happiness or solve all of his problems, and like he can't get it, and so like it's as if God gave this to him for his detriment, to torture him. Okay, so then we went to the first phase of the experiment, which we'll reread just because that's what we're going to start with today. Dibarti ani imli bile more. I spoke with my heart or my mind, saying, "Ani hine higdalti vosafti chachma al kol asher hay lefanai al Yerushalayim." I have become great and amassed chachma more so than any of my predecessors over Yerushalayim. V'libi ra'ahar b'chachma v'das. My mind has seen a lot of wisdom and knowledge. The etna libi ladas chachma v'das holelos v'sichlus. And I applied my mind to know chachma and to know madness or wildness and foolishness. Yadati shegamzeh hu rayon ruach, and I knew that this too is a frustration of spirit. Kibrov chachma rav kaas, because in an abundance of wisdom is a lot of anger. V'yosif da'as yosif machov, and the more one increases knowledge, the more one increases pain. So we said, first of all, why did he start with chachma? And we gave two answers. One being that culturally or values-wise in Torah, obviously we value chachma a lot. So as the king, as Melech Yerushalayim, it makes sense to start off with, and as Ben David, right? Then it makes sense to start off with chachma as your first step in the thing that you're most likely candidate for finding happiness. And then secondly, Shlomo was blessed with more chachma than everyone else. So it's his unique strength. And so even if this weren't a cultural value, even if he was just some rando out there who was blessed with chachma, then it would make sense for him to start with it, because that's where he has the greatest shot at finding happiness. Okay, so then the question that we ended off with is, what was his conclusion? What does he mean that Barov chachma rav kas v'yosif das yosif machov? And I'll request formally that those of you who are able to, if you could turn on your cameras, it makes it feel much more like a human interaction.
I will in a minute. Just getting computer started.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So what do you think it means? Rov chachma, rov kas, Yosef das, Yosef machov. And remember, you got to think of it in a Kohelesy way. Okay. I mean, you got to think of it as like what popped the Yisron bubble, right? And we've said there's 4 categories of things, of reasons why pursuits of Yisron fail. That was in the Psukim 4 through 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, sorry, 4 through 7, right? One is death, right? The fact that either death reaches you or could reach you at any moment. Secondly is the so that was a dor holek v'dor bav haaretz lo lamades, right? That's death. Second is V'zarach Hashem u'shavah Hashem, that's the sun, which is that your pursuit of Yisron is thwarted by external factors. Okay. Third is the fact that was the wind, is that you're chasing something, you're chasing something that's inherently unattainable, right? The thing that you want doesn't actually like exist, or you can't reach it. And then fourth was the muscle with the water, which is that you engage in the pursuit of Yisron in a self-defeating way, that you are the cause of the reason why you don't get it. So you don't have to think of those things when you're answering this question, but just those are the four general categories.
All right, anyways.
Yes.
So I think I had a possibility.
Sure.
Not sure if it's wind or water, but I guess as you attain more chachma, I think you realize that there are things you can never understand about chachma, or that you can't get to the end of chachma. And so that seems to me like it's a painful thing that, chachma has built into it.
Okay, so let me support what you're saying, and then I'll refute what you're saying. Okay, just 1 second here.
The best.
Yeah. So what you're saying is true in that he does reach that conclusion. Let me just see if I can find it really quickly later on in the book. Let me see if I can remember the way he phrases it. Hold on. Hold on just 1 second here. Oh, is this? Oh, that's the wrong. Did I just open the same thing twice? Oh, no, I didn't. Hold on. It's here. I'm actually going to cheat. I'm going to actually go. I told you that there's my color-coded version of Koheles. Let's see if I can find that one. I think it'll be easier to find the Chachma Psukim. For some reason, the search is so slow when I'm using Zoom. Oh, I see my video is also lagging. All right, let's see here. Okay, so we're not going to dwell on this, by the way, but the color coding, you can divide this into smaller, more precise categories. But this is really this is how I divided it in terms of like macro categories. Dark green is biological info. Purple is general Hevel statements. Light blue is chachma as worthwhile. Dark blue is chachma as Hevel. Light pink is tzedek as worthwhile, or saying that God is just. Dark pink is tzedek as Hevel and lack of justice in the world. Light green is simcha as worthwhile. Dark green is simcha as Hevel. Yellow is wealth as Hevel. Interesting, he doesn't have that as a benefit. And then orange is the transience of olam hazeh, and then gray is death. So I'm just going to skim through until I find the light blue thing that I was looking for. That supports what Isaiah is saying. Again, I highly recommend when you are confronted with a giant text that you have no order in, then color coding is a good way to just to orient yourself within this. Okay, hold on just 1 second here. Now watch me not be able to orient myself within this. Uh-oh, am I not finding it? Gulp, just 1 second here. Oh, sorry, I'm looking for the dark blue, not the light blue. That's why I can't see it. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, this is the one right here. Kasher nasati es libi, this is in 8:16. Kasher nasati es libi ladas chachma v'liros es ha'inyan asher nasa al haaretz. When I applied my mind to know chachma and to see the matter that is done under the earth, on the earth, ki gam bayom uvalayla shena be'enav einenu ro'eh, because even by day and by night, sleep will not be seen by his eyes. Ra'isi es kol ma'aseh elokim. Ki lo yuchal ha'adam limtzo es ha'ma'aseh asher nasa tachas hashemesh. I looked at all the creation of God, that it is not possible for a person to find the creation or the action that is done under the sun. And a person's going to toil for it and not find it. Even if the chacham says, I will know, he's not going to find it. So that's exactly what Isaiah said. Is like one of the aspects of chachma is I think that would be wind, right? Is that it's inherently unattainable, right? You can't. There's too much to know, and you just can't do it. You could say that might be that might be sun is the sun is the fact that like you that you're prevented from doing it because of the vastness of it. But I think it's more like it's the unattainable goal. So that's the raya for what Isaiah is saying. Okay. The problem I have with that interpretation of our pasuk is, where's the anger and the pain? Now, you could just say he's angry at himself for not being able to find it, or angry at God for making it like that, or the pain of like just not being able to do your goal, find your goal. But I feel like those are too general, and you could say that about any Yisron. So I feel like there has to be something that is uniquely like painful about like his attempt to find the Yisron in Chachma and not get it. So that's my objection.
Could I pause it?
Yeah.
Oopsies. It's possible that maybe like the more you learn, the more you realize like sort of how, I mean, I don't know if it's specifically like how uncontrollable the world is, but sort of like how it doesn't conform to what you want.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah.
Sort of like Aladdin plug. And yeah, so and yeah, so that makes you very angry because
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that is now let me ask you a question before I talk about what you said. How did you get there?
I don't know. I just kind of thought about like what would make you angry about knowing things, because we usually think like knowing things makes someone happy or whatever. That's like just what we assume.
Right.
But there is this element that could, like, me, if you go into it with a certain goal in mind, I guess, and it doesn't meet your goal, then you'll be upset.
Okay, yeah. So I also arrived at this through thinking about anger, and anger is, generally speaking, you get angry when reality is not in line with your desires or your preferences, and from there I was thinking, well, Chachma has the great potential to do that, because people say ignorance is bliss, which it's not, but in the immediate it is. And the more you learn about reality, the more you will find things that are not in line with your desires or your preferences or the way you would prefer things to be. And the one I saw who said this pirush is the Ibn Ezra. And I got to show this to you because, I got to show it to you because it's Ibn Ezra, but also it is so poetic here. Okay. And by the way, I just discovered right before shiur that alatorah.org has an English translation of the Ibn Ezra on Koheles, which I didn't even know that translation existed. And this is by Norman Strickman, who's the Ibn Ezra guy. Okay. So here's what he says. And you got, I'll put the English is here also, but it's better in the Hebrew. Kibrov chachma. All right. Kasher bikesh ladasa sichlus. When he sought to know intelligence, ra'a, he saw ki hamaskil. You can see on the screen, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Ki hamaskil hamakir divrei ha'olam. That the intelligent person who recognizes the matters of the world, brov chachmaso, with his abundant knowledge, tamid yihi lo ka'as umachov. He will constantly have anger and pain. V'lo yismach babanim. He won't be happy in his children. Ba'avor dato she'acharisam lamos, because he knows that they're going to die. B'chayav o acharav, either in his life or afterwards. V'lo ba'osher, and he won't be happy with wealth. Ki of ye'ofef, because it's like a bird that flies away. V'gam lo yo'il v'yoshia b'yom ha'ed, and also wealth will not save you on the day of misfortune. V'yom hamavis nasun ben shtei einav, and the day of death is set betwixt his eyes. Okay, so and those are obviously just examples. I don't think he means specifically those things, but that's the idea. Is like the more you learn, then the more you'll find out about things that are not the way you would want them to be, and that you can't change. And this goes back to. I was going to say what we were doing in shiur. This goes back to what I was doing in shiur with my 12th graders on Eov, that the Rambam says, it's not just the Rambam, it's really Aristotle, that there are three categories of propositions, right? If I make a statement about something, there's three categories. There's the necessary, the impossible, and the possible. Okay, so the necessary would be something that must be true, like a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or any like logical necessity, or any conclusion that follows from its premises. Impossible would be something like a square circle, or like something that goes against the laws of nature. If you want to just talk about excluding miracles as a possibility for our purposes here. And then possible is like the statement President Biden, or not President Biden, wow, that was a weird slip. President Trump is at home, as at the White House, right? So it's possible. For us, it's possible, or it might not be possible. Meaning, in reality, it is one thing, but as far as we're concerned in our own mind, that statement would be in the category of the possible. So what happens when you learn about the world is anything you learn, you're going to take these propositions that are in the realm of the possible, and you're going to put them as either necessary or impossible. And once you put them in one of those boxes, you can't take them out again. Okay, so you're constantly chipping away at, when you're this is, I guess, part of what they call the idealism of youth, that when you're young, anything is possible, and then as you grow older and you learn more about the world, you realize that there are fewer, like, things you thought were possible are not. And so it's a combination of finding out about things that are not in line with your preferences and being confronted with the immutability of reality, and that lends itself to a certain helplessness of I'm just subject to reality, to these unpleasant things that I can't control. Alrighty, so I think that's what you were saying, Zev, and that's my understanding. I think that's Ibn Ezra. Yeah,
Yaakov? Isn't he also saying something else here? Because the fact that person's sons will die or that he will die, any fool really does know that. He doesn't relate to it emotionally.
Good point. Right. So in other words, there's two types of knowledge that you're getting. There's intellectual knowledge and there is emotional knowledge, or knowledge that's real to your emotions. So everyone knows that you're going to die or your sons are going to die, but it's not real to the fool. It's very easy for him to dismiss or to entertain the fantasy, the feeling that he's going to live forever. But the Chacham, the knowledge he has becomes real to him, and that imposes the actual feeling of inevitability upon him. And yeah, that's a good point. Good call. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next phase of the experiment? Okay,
let's do a question about this first.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, no, go ahead.
So I guess I don't know exactly what kind of chachma he was trying to gather, but it sort of seems like, well, okay, it just sort of seems like a bad side effect or something like that. Like it's not like a whack in the chachma, just like this extra harmful thing that happens at the same time.
Right. So later on in chapter 2, you're going to see that he's going to come back to chachma, and he's going to see the perks of chachma and the benefits. And one of the things we're going to have to answer there is, like, what did he find lacking, which ended this phase of the experiment here? And then what new approach to chachma did he find where he recognized the benefits? Okay, so we'll hold off on that question until we get to that. And then I think we'll have to answer it there. Okay, good question though. All righty, so back to the experiment. Now we're in chapter 2, or in the chapter divisions. Okay, now this one is one of the ones where I think you can divide it in different ways. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I think, what the best approach here is read until I'm just trying to think how far to read. Okay, I'm gonna read far. Okay, and then we'll talk about how to divide it. Okay, Amarti ani belibi. I said in my heart, L'cha anasacha b'simcha ur'ei b'tov. I will. Anascha is a subject of machlokas, and I want to show you the Ibn Ezra, but I also don't want to show you the Ibn Ezra because he kind of gives away what this phase is about. But grammatically, he says that anascha could either come from the word nisayon, like to experiment with, but it can also come from the word nisachim, like nisuch hayayin, so like to pour out. And according to the first interpretation, the verb of anascha is not telling you anything. But according to the second interpretation, then it has the connotation of like involving himself in drink. Okay. Like I'm trying to think, how there are tons of idioms in English for getting drunk. So is there one that is a combination of like partying to have a good time and like through alcohol? Like there's got to be one, but like, because like people say like getting smashed, but smashed is only referring to the negative. That's not referring to the partying thing, So if you can find an English phrase, I've been trying to search for one in my mind, but that's what he's trying to capture. Of anascha b'simcha, I will pour out partying. Okay, I will pour out celebration. Okay, like pour myself drinks. All right, ur'ei b'tov, and Re'ei b'tov does not mean like see the good. Okay, that like God saw that it was good. This is like like have myself a good time. All right. Vihine gamhu hevel. Okay, and that was also hevel. That was a very short experiment, psukim wise. Lischok amarti meholal ulesimcha mazo osa. To schok, I said, it is mad, okay, or it is wild, or it is crazy. Mad is, I guess, if he were British. And schok is not joking around. It doesn't mean that like he saw that knock jokes are futile. It means like schok, like messing around in a partying sense. Okay, that's how I'm understanding it. And l'simcha, and again, for partying or celebration, the celebration lifestyle, mazosa, what does this do? Okay, now, okay, you know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna change my plans here. I'm gonna call the shots and say this is phase 2. And then what we'll do is because phase 3 is so long, when we do phase 3, if you want to argue that this is all part of one phase, then you can argue that, and we'll duke it out then. But for now, I think it'd be more efficient to just treat this as phase 2, okay? Because you see here, he has I tried this and I got this hevel result, so it seems like phase 2. So the question is again, what is he trying? Okay, and again, we know it has something to do with like celebrating and partying. Okay, why is he doing this now? Like, why is this the thing he goes to after Chachma? And then what was his conclusion here?
I think this is trying to go to the opposite extreme, like abandoning your mind.
Yes. Okay.
And then you still, like, even if you try to do that, you'll end up being reflective and saying, what does simcha even do for you? Like,
Okay.
you won't be able to escape that. Like the point, like this is trying to just not be reflective, but then you won't be able to escape the feeling of what is this even accomplishing?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Okay. I will say that's semi based on a shiur from Rabbi Zimmer. I think.
Okay. That's a reputable source. I forgot to say, by the way, that when I do this in high school, then part of what I have them do is to title each phase of the experiment. So I actually forgot to do that at the end of phase 1. So I'm gonna get back to what you said in a second, Isaac. If you had to like bullet point the title of phase 1, what would it be?
The folly of wisdom.
Folly of wisdom. Okay, that's interesting. I
Not
wouldn't
folly.
folly.
Yeah, I wouldn't say folly. I retract that.
Okay.
The pain of wisdom.
The pain of wisdom. Okay, that's a good one. I guess I like titling them more on what he's trying to do rather than what result he got, because if he has his clipboard here as the scientist and he writes his notes, then what is his objective here? I like calling this Chachma as panacea, Chachma as like the cure-all. Like he expects Chachma to only bring good for some reason, but instead it reveals things that are painful, or it makes things that are painful more real to him. Phase 2, the reason why I brought up the title thing is because I like to call phase 2 escape into simcha. Okay. And to show you again who says this is Ibn Ezra. Okay. Guys, let's abandon this approach to Koheles and just do the Ibn Ezra. No, I'm just kidding. So he says, Amarti, Yadaber im nafsho le'ikra hol, sorry. Yadaber im nafsho le'ikra holus. I spoke with my soul regarding the essence of I don't like translating holus as folly. Like wildness is better. And it's the type of debauchery, I think, is the best English word. That's like what the Rambam uses in Hilchos Shvisas Yom Tov when he's talking about if you go overboard on drinking on Yom Tov, then that's not simcha, it's hololus v'sichlos, and hololus is like wildness. So then he says what Isaac said, L'chana anascha b'simcha, im ha'chachma tolid ka'as te'azev ve'ashuv li'sazik b'divrei simcha. Okay, so if Chachma gives rise to anger, I will abandon it and go in and be involved in matters of simcha. So he is trying to get away from the pain of Chachma. Okay, that's like, it's a reactionary thing. All right. And then this is the part I wanted to show you before. I'm just going to read the English because I'm not good at grammar. So Rabbi Strickman does a good job with it. So anaska is I will try thee is similar to the word masachti, I have mingled, and the drink of the wine I've mingled. This is so even though anasacha, I will try thee, and masachti, I've mingled, come from different roots. Anaska is piel. It is like the words adabira, vayinasech, but poured it out. And then some say that anasacha comes from the word nun samach he, and its kaf is a suffix indicating the second person. Its meaning is I will train you. Anascha is similar to achavacha, I will tell thee, and I will tell thee, hear me thou, and achanaka, I have surnamed thee. Okay. I have surnamed thee, though, like kinoi, although thou hast not known me. So in other words, the first two interpretations he gave is like, it means I will try you, but it has the connotation or the sound of pouring wine or mixing drinks. Okay. That's what I meant before. And then I guess he says that the other meaning is I will, is nun samech he. But I think someone else says it means I will test you, from different shorish. Okay, yeah. So he's trying to escape into it, and then what does he find? So he finds, like Isaac said, that like it's not an escape, because what happens the next morning? You wake up and you're right back where you started, and you face all of the hevel of that you found with the chachma, and you got to drown that out again, So let's see what the yes, Ibn Ezra didn't give that explanation there. I was thinking that that's what it means with the I divide. Anyone else have a different interpretation of the two halves of his result here of meholal, l'schok amarti meholal, l'simcha maza osa. And I'm not saying that what Isaac said is wrong. I'm just wondering if you have I have a different interpretation. And remember, you could be a little bit loose with schok, because jesting is not really a good translation. So like we can kind of have to infer what it is.
I've heard one before for the second half, Lusim Kumaza Osa.
Yeah.
That's simple as not satisfying, because you're not satisfying the product you want to be productive.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I would think also. Yeah, so the way I took it was I took what Isaac said for the first half and what Yaakov said for the second half is so, and I actually realized that in the better translation for schok is like is entertainment, or I think in a lot of the Romance languages, then the word for entertainment is like related to the word divert, like divertment. And so I think it's a good word because you're trying to distract yourself, so trying to distract yourself from the ka'as of chachma, that's meholal, that's mad, that's insanity, because like you're not changing reality by drowning it out for a few hours, so it's just going to come back. No, if a person who was faced with let's say a general on the battlefield who was faced with an incoming army said, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to all get drunk. That's only going to be a temporary fix. And then when you wake up from your drunken stupor, the army's still charging at you. So it's madness to think that you can kind of like avoid that pain through drinking. And then l'simcha maza osa is you feel like a deadbeat. You're not doing anything productive. It's an entirely drawing yourself inwards to just retreat into like this escapist lifestyle. So you're not producing anything. Okay, and I think that that's particularly good because you'll see what he does in his next phase. Definitely has something to do with the productivity. Okay, so let's go to the anything here, or do you want to go to the next phase now? Okay, let's go to the.
Is there any reason why he thought it was a good idea just to swing from one extreme to the other?
Good question. Good question. Did I see someone say that?
I mean, wouldn't that be the first place to look? I mean, first you go for the general, extremes, and then you go like different, maybe ratios of these two. I don't know, but you would start with the most overall categories.
You could argue that, right? That if you're doing an experiment about lifestyles and you just make minute changes, so then like that's not the most efficient way to do it. Maybe shooting for the major lifestyles will give you more data, wider data, and then you can tweak it as you find things that work and don't work. Yeah, I don't have a fully satisfactory answer to your question, Yaakov. Like what was just said now, like it makes sense to me, but something bothers me about that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I think the way Ibn Ezra put it does have a sense to it, which is that it made sense why he tried Chachma first. And it's not that he's trying Simcha per se, it's that he's trying to get away from the Chachma, It does seem extreme though, because that's also not fully satisfactory. Yeah, don't know.
Question.
Yeah.
So before, I guess he was looking at Chachma and seeing that it doesn't provide like a Yisroel, but now it seems like his investigation, or what he turned to next, wasn't really like a search for Yisroel at this point. So I guess like, has he like given up on that, like, or
Yeah. So
he was looking for Yisroel?
it's a good question. I mean, you're right, because it doesn't sound like he's trying to find happiness. It sounds like he's trying to avoid the pain. So you could even argue that this is not really a phase of this is not a new Yisroel he's trying, or a new like Yisroel candidate that he's trying out. It is, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Let's think about that for a second. I mean, the other possibility, and I'm kind of getting this from outside of the text, is you do see that people live the party lifestyle as their candidate for Yisroel, So it could be that that's really what he was trying out, but what drove him there was his reaction to Chachma. You know what I'm
But
saying?
it also sounds like he gave up on like on this lifestyle because of it failing to
right. Well, that was the result, right? But it does sound like he tried it out, and I thought your question was it. I thought your question was, it sounds like he wasn't trying it out, and I'm saying he was trying it out albeit for a different motive, and then he found out afterwards, as a result, that it didn't provide him what he thought.
Well, I'm saying it didn't. It doesn't seem like he doesn't comment on whether or not it provided Yisroel.
Well, he says Hine Ganhu Hevel.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I was focused on the second pasuk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear.
Yeah. Okay. Now we get to phase 3. Okay, and this is the longest one. Tarti Belibi Limshoch Bayain Espasari. Okay, so right away we're confronted with a question here. He says, I explored with my mind to draw with wine my flesh, or to allow myself to be drawn with wine, my flesh to be drawn with wine. Flesh here, I don't think it means he's pouring wine on himself. Okay, I think it means the flesh here means his body. Velibi noheg bachachma, and my mind conducted itself with wisdom. I'm translating it as mind here because it says bachachma. Velechos besichlus, and to grab foolishness. Ad asher eze tov livnei ha'adam asher yasu tachas hashmayim mispar yemei chayehem, until I can see which is good for mankind that they do under the heavens in the numbered days of their lives. Now, that is very hard to understand. Okay, but he says 3 things. Okay, draw his flesh with wine, make his mind be noheg b'chachma, and to grab onto sichlos, to folly, until he can see what is good for people to do under the heavens. So let's have that as a question mark now, because he's going to spell out what he did, and that will be how we infer what it meant up there. Okay. Higdalti masai, I was grand in my actions. Banisi li batim, I built houses for myself. Natati li kramim, I planted vineyards. Sisi li ganos upartisim, I made for myself gardens and orchards. Natati v'hem eitz kol peri, and I planted for myself trees of every fruit. I'll bet you, I don't know this. I'll bet you there's some midrash that ties this to Gan Eden. I don't know though. If you find it, let me know, because it's always fun to have a Gan Eden-y Koheles crossovers. Asisi li brechos mayim lahashkos mehem yar tzomech etzim. I made for myself, I think this is like irrigation ditches or irrigation systems to irrigate from them the forest that grows the trees. Kanisi avadim ushvachos. I bought for myself manservants and maidservants. Bnei bayis hayali, and I had many. I don't think bnei bayis here means kids. I think it means like household stewards. Workers in his house. Gam miknei bakar vatzon harbe hayali. I also had a lot of cattle and a livestock with cattle and sheep, flock. Mikol shai lefanai b'Yerushalayim, more so than anyone else before me in Yerushalayim. Kanasti li gam kesef v'zahav. I gathered for myself silver and gold, uskulos malachim, and precious things of kings, v'hamedinos, and of provinces. I think that probably means like jewelry or treasures. Asisi li sharim v'sharos. I made for myself, I think those are male and female singers. V'sa'anu gos b'nei ha'adam, and the enjoyments of man, shida v'shidos. Okay. So Shidav Shidos, there's a Pshat interpretation and a Midrash interpretation. Anyone know what the Midrash interpretation is? It's a famous one. Who did Shlomo have a whole shebang with, a conversation in Midrash world? Ashmedai, the king of demons. So the Midrashic interpretations I made for myself, male demons and female demons. And then I think the Pshat interpretation is it's types of chariots, okay, which like is back then the equivalent of like our luxury sports cars. Okay, so he like got lots of like fancy vehicles. V'gadalti v'hosafti mikol shai lefanai b'Yerushalayim. Okay, I was greater than and amassed more than anyone before me in Yerushalayim. Af chachmasi amdali, and my chachma, even my chachma stayed with me. Okay, interesting there, right? So we have to, I guess that's a question we have to ask is, what does that mean? Even my chachma stayed with me. V'chol asher shalu einai lo atalti mehem. And anything that my eyes desired, I did not withhold from them. Lo manati es libi mikol simcha. I did not withhold my heart from any joy. Ki libi, now check this out. Ki libi sameach mikol amali. My heart was happy with all of my toil. He found it. It worked. Look, it worked. I think Isaiah mentioned this when we were doing the read through, I think. V'zeh hayachalki mikol amali. And this was my portion in all of my toil. Okay, but then Ufanisi ani b'chol ma'asai, and I turned towards all of my actions she'asu yadai that I did with my hands. Uv'amal she'amalti lasos, and my toil that I toiled to do. V'nei hakol hevel u'rus ruach v'ein yisron tachas hashamash. And there is and everything was futile and a breaking of spirit, and there is no yisron under the sun. Wah wah. Okay. This next one is going to be clearly another phase. All right. So the questions here are our usual questions, which is what exactly was he looking for here? What was this Yisron candidate? And this one's a little harder to define, okay? Especially because of the confusing nature of Pasuk Gimel. Second question is why did he go here next? Okay, after phase 1 and phase 2. Question 3 is what conclusion did he arrive at? And you could split this into another question also is like, it seemed to work for a while. So why did it stop working, right? In, what did we say? In Yud, Libi Sameach Mikol Amali, V'zeh Hayachalki Mikol Amali. Sounds like it worked. And then, and then why did it fail? And that's the other question. So let's start with the first question. So what was he doing here? What was he looking for? Yeah.
Isn't separate thing? Isn't Yud Beis the same more or less as the first pasuk in this part experiment?
Okay, yeah. So the problem with Yud Beis is that it looks like it looks like similar to Gimel, but it also looks similar to phase 1. Okay. We'll read it. I'll read phase 4 and then we'll come back to it later. Hold on. Actually, I don't want to. I don't want to read it right now. I think that's gonna make things more difficult. Let's. I do see the similarities, but let's hold off for a little while just to try to get this on its own terms. So what do you say?
I mean, it seems like he's focusing on like material stuff now, but also like political power kind of too.
Right. Yeah, right. Because he puts the emphasis on I did this more than anyone in Yerushalayim, which seems to be some sort of like either political thing or competition type thing, you know. But what's with the limshoch b'yayin es basari and libi noheg b'chachma and lechos b'sichlos? I mean, none of this sounds like sichlos. None of this sounds like foolishness per se. In other words, like he's not acting like he's not getting drunk. Okay, like that would be foolishness. But yeah.
This isn't like a complete answer, but something about this that at least seems like distinct from the last stage.
Yeah.
Is that this seems like he's getting possessions and things like that, and maybe even stuff that's enjoyable, but in more of like a glamorous, maybe like ego kind of way.
Yeah, I definitely feel that vibe as well. Yeah, this is not practical stuff, right? He's not definitely not going to use all those treasures and all of the demons. You know, you only got so many demons you could use each day. Anyone else?
About the wisdom not leaving him, I think
Yeah.
that means, well, the wisdom, that was the first stage, and with that, it caused the pain of him realizing that it was all futile. So even though he was doing all these things, he still had the wisdom and realized that it was all futile.
So this is interesting, okay? Because so you're taking off Chachmas Amdali as in a negative sense, right? That the Chachma that caused him pain in the beginning stayed with him, right? So it's interesting that Chazal darshan that. So plain pshat is af Chachmas Amdali, that even my Chachma stayed with me. Chazal darshan it as Chachma shelamadati ba'af amdali, the Chachma that I learned in anger, stood with me. I don't know if that has anything to do with what you're saying, but the reason why I'm taking it as positive is because of the next pasuk that seems to be reporting success. So to me, it would just be incongruous if you were highlighting the fact that the Chachma, if you were highlighting the pain that the Chachma caused him before. And furthermore, it sounds like when he says V'libi noheg b'Chachma, it sounds like that he's embracing Chachma, but in a different way than he did the first time. And in a positive way.
So maybe he's saying he didn't forget all the wisdom, but it doesn't make him unhappy now. Because he feels better.
Okay, good. So then the question is, why not? But that's a good observation. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Maybe the reason that or part of the reason, I guess, that the like the simcha and stuff didn't give him full satisfaction, I guess, is because it was kind of he was disgusted by himself as like being an animal, I guess, like kind of just giving into his desires, and now he sort of can get the pleasure without that kind of feeling.
Okay, good.
Because it's more of like a refined, like we said before, like glamorous type of thing.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I'm going to show you the Ibn Ezra again. This part I like the Ibn Ezra for, but I don't know if the interpretation that I have is inspired by him or is what he is saying. Okay, so here's what Ibn Ezra says. Tarti, I searched. Okay, Kasher Ra'isi Shahachma Levada Tolid Ka'av. So when I saw that Chachma alone gives rise to pain, Vaschok Levado Lo Yo'il, and then the party lifestyle doesn't benefit. Chipasti derech lechaber bein shneim. I look for a way to combine the two. Okay. Umashachti basari biyain kadesh esmach. So I partook of wine in order to rejoice. The Indian basari gufi. V'libi noheg b'chachma. Libi temuras sichli v'nishmasi. So libi here means his mind. V'noheg pol yote v'apol chaser v'inyano libi noheg dvar b'chachma. So here's where I got to look at the English here. The object of noheg is missing. The meaning of my heart conducteth itself with wisdom, and yet to lay hold on to folly is my heart conducted its affairs with wisdom and took hold of a little folly. That is, okay, he says, shihu taivas ze ha'olam, which is the desires of the world. And all of this is until you could see which is the good path. So the way I understand phase 3 is I title phase 3 enjoyments of Olam Hazeh. Okay, so enjoyments of Olam Hazeh includes the physically enjoyable things and the material pleasures, all those material pleasures, and the ego pleasures of accomplishment, and the productive pleasures of being the one to build up like his palace in this way, and having a little buzz going on with his wine for the entire time, and having chachma and getting to implement his chachma in a productive way. In other words, in phase 1, he's really pursuing the life of chachma with the intent that, like, by illuminating everything in the light of knowledge, and that's going to, like, reveal like good stuff and make me happy and solve all the problems. Here he's like, okay, fine, Chachma is going to reveal unpleasant realities, so I'm going to use my Chachma to make stuff and to enjoy the world. So it's using the Chachma as a means, but to get the most out of this world that I can. Okay, and so that's why it has this character. Phase 3 has this character of like everything being mixed, because it is a lot of things. It's like Ibn Ezra said, "Taivas zeha olam," and I think that's the reason why he has to emphasize af chachmasi amdali, because usually what happens if you live a life of taiva, then you lose your chachma. So this is Shlomo. Then he's able to maintain his chachma while doing all these things, and even like drinking wine, but not to excess like he did the first time. Okay, so is that a clear answer for what he was trying to do in the phase?
So this chachma is different than the first one then?
Yeah, this chachma is different than the first one. That's why I define the first one as chachma as a panacea, because he's really trying to use chachma to solve problems of the world, or to like solve reality's problems, and then he's just uncovering more. Here, he's not trying to solve problems with chachma. He's trying to get the most out of life with chachma.
Mm-hmm.
I had a thought.
Yeah.
In a sense, isn't the whole book like him just living the life of Chachma, sort of like going, sort of like pursuing the study of human nature for its own sake? Like, isn't that what he's doing the whole book?
Yeah.
So isn't it like?
So here's a pet theory I have, and it's a pet theory because I haven't tested it yet. Is when we did the read through of Sefer Koheles as a whole, we saw him going from topic to topic. So what I'm wondering is, this experiment is phrased as, I guess I'm not answering your question. I'm realizing now. All right, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and then I'll try to answer your question. My pet theory is that if you look through the book, then he's going from topic to topic, and this is presented in chronological order. But it's possible that if you look through the book, you'll be able to classify each of the psukim in the book in accordance with one of these phases. In other words, it's not like he did the experiment and then like the book switches to not first person. It's that the rest of the book is him recording his findings that he did in the experiment. Why are they in that order? I'm not sure, but that's possible. But now you're saying, isn't the whole book in some sense part of the first phase, where he's trying to like push Chachma to its limits and find out like, what if it's going to give you happiness? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
In a sense it is. Yes, that's true. I can't fully answer that because of phase 4. Okay, because phase 4, remember, is going back to Chachma, and we have to, once we get to phase 4, then we have to compare phases 1, 3, and 4, because all 3 of those have to do with Chachma. Okay, let's try to answer the question now, though, of why did this work temporarily in Pasuk 10, and then what changed between Pasuk 10 and Pasuk 11? And I'll read it again in English. Everything that my eyes sought or asked for, I did not withhold from them. I did not withhold my heart from any joy, and my heart was happy from all of my toil. And this was my portion in all my toil. And I turned to all of my activities that my hands did, and all the toil that I toiled, and everything was hevel and rus ruach, and there's no yisron under the sun. So what changed?
I think he felt it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Moshe. No, go ahead.
I think he felt accomplished, but he did all these things and he felt accomplished, unlike getting drunk. But then again, all he did was, all the things he was accomplishing were futile.
Okay, interesting. I hear what you're saying. It's going to be interesting. The way I'm going to express what I'm saying is almost exactly the opposite, but I'm curious if we're actually saying the same things. So hold on for 1 second. You want to hear what Tamar's saying?
I was going to say that he was enjoying it while it was happening, but then once he reflected on it, then he started experiencing pain.
That's what I was going to say also. Okay, so let me say that, and I'll show you how maybe it's what Moshe's saying, but I'm not sure. So I'll borrow a term here from Freud. Okay, Freud often spoke of a psychic energy, right? That you have a certain amount of like psychological energy that you expend to do stuff. Okay, and like at the end of a day of work, you feel drained. Right, drained meaning you don't have any energy left. But when you're discharging your energy in activity, then like then all of your mental capacities are like devoted to that involvement. Okay. And like the highest state of that is what we call like flow, right? Where you're in a state of, or in the zone, whatever, when you're not thinking of anything else, you're just involved in this. So I think I agree with Tamar, while he was involved in all these projects and applying his chachma and getting enjoyment out of it, so there was no psychological energy left to question the value of what he's doing in the grand scheme of things. All of his energy was wrapped up in actually designing and implementing his plans. But then once you see in 11, what changed? Fanisi ani b'chol ma'asai. I turned to all of my actions. And I'm saying that, like the way Tamar said, is I then reflected back on everything I did, and I saw, what did this really accomplish? Right? Like, what is the significance of this thing? Okay, fine. So I'm the king who like built all this stuff. Great. what does that do? I have 500 chariots. What does that do? And in a sense, even though he doesn't use this phrase, I mean, I'm learning it. It's almost like ulasimcha mazo osa, all these things mazo osa. Like, what did it do? And so I think that's what the reason why I'm questioning, is this the opposite of what Moshe said, or is it the same thing? Is like, he is questioning the value of what he's doing in accomplishment terms and realizing that it didn't really accomplish anything, But the difference is, I'm saying that he didn't have the psychological energy to be able to reflect on what he's doing while he was doing it. Like, that's the thing also, is like, when, let's say another place where you see this is athletes, right? That while they are competing, either when they're in the middle of the game or when they're in the Olympics, they're not, they want the gold, but the question does not enter into their mind of like, so what that I got a gold medal, or so what that I won the game. It's just all their energy is like in the game, Only after like the victory party dies down and the confetti is being swept up, and like they're sitting there with like their martini and like looking around and like thinking like, okay, so like that was it, like now what, so but that's because all of their energy was devoted to the pursuit. And then once they finished it, that's when it freed up all the energy to look back and say, what did this actually do?
Yeah, I don't think it's too different. You're saying that he was psychically drained, and I was saying that he just felt temporarily good about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the key point though is the fanisi, is I turned. He wasn't turning while he was doing the thing. Only when he was done and he looked back at it, then he said, well, what's the point of this? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or observations on this phase? Okay, so let's, this is a good place to stop. We'll stop here, and the next shiur on the curious tale of Sasan and Simcha will start at 8 o'clock. Okay, so see you later, or see you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are you keeping the Zoom open?
Yeah, I'll keep the Zoom